Hello and welcome to a video showcase of a new game that I just have made. The game is called World at War, and it is a very abstracted game and micro game about Axis and Allies and the war between them during the from the 38 to 1945, basically World War II theme. This is a game for 1 to 2 players, so it is possible to play solo, but it is best if you have a friend to play with. And what you're gonna do some tug of war on these 5 cards here that you can see, that are called map cards. They actually represent the major battlegrounds of that era. Game is made with some restrictions. I usually follow these BGG competitions for the games, although I stopped participating on them, but I do like to make games with their with their restrictions. So for this, only 9 cards and 24 other components. I choose to make a very tight game, so it actually uses all 9 cards and 24 components, and the components are simple ones: d6 dice and wooden cubes, which you probably could find and scavenge from other games if you have at home. So let's go through the components, and I'm going to talk a little about the game, and I'm actually show you how the game works. I'm not going to do a full playthrough, just it's just a showcase. Later on we can do a playthrough, even like I can play 2-player, playing with both sides to my best, like playing Allies and Axis like myself, or I can also do a playthrough against the Automa, because the game is playable solo. I actually have Automa already prepared. Alright, so let's see the components here. So we have these national cards, I call them. We have Allies and Axis. As you can see, they are quite the same. They have these little icons that represents abstracted the Army, Air Force and Navy, their industry, oil reserves and national strength. Now this national strength is basically like the morale of your nation and their willingness to be in the war and so on. Same thing for the Axis, just a bit different colors and images, and this is basically, I use blue and red dice to distinguish between them. We have these dice that will actually be used to track how many your unit strengths, like for Army, Air Force and Navy, and how much your industry and all your reserves you have. These can go to 0, so if you would like lose all your oil reserves, you will remove a die. It is possible to get them back, so you can, but you can't go over the 6. So if you have to have like 7 reserves, you just go to 6, and that's the maximum. You also have these little cubes here. They are used for some action selection on these cards here. These are called the action cards, and there are 2 of them. I can show you. They are double-sided, and they are marked by years of World War II, so from 38 to 39, and then when you flip you go to 1940, 41 and so on and so on. These are all the action in the games you can select, and as you progress you're gonna use the first top card, then you're gonna flip it, then the next card, and so on and so on. We have 1 d6 dice to resolve conflicts and combat, and we have these 5 map cards with the battlegrounds, which have some special abilities that you can activate, who has the advantage on them. As you can see, these little placeholders here, and what's the name of the battleground. So Britain and France, Central Europe, Eastern Front, North Africa and Pacific. That was the major parts of the war where the war actually was going on. So let's do the setup, and then I'm gonna explain what do you need to do to win the game and how you can lose the game, and then we're gonna do a little one turn. So the setup is quite simple. You're gonna set your Army, Air Force and Navy depending what nation you are leading. So let's say I'm gonna play the Allies. So my Army starts with 3 strength, my Air Force starts with 3 strength, but my Navy is 4. While for the Axis it's a bit different. They have a 4 in Army, 3 in Air Force and 3 in the Navy. So Allies have a better Navy, Axis have a better Army. Then we're gonna set the industry. Your industry starts with 3 for allies, and your oil reserve starts with 4. While for the Axis it's quite different. They have a 4 industry and 3 oil reserves, so they have less oil but better industry than the allies for now. Your national strength will start on 6 in both cases, so 6 for the allies, 6 for the Axis. And that's basically all you have to do for the setup. You're gonna place these cards here, you're gonna put these little cubes in the neutral position, so neither allies or Axis have any advantage right now on any battleground, and you're ready to start the game. So at the beginning of the game you gotta decide who's gonna play first. You can roll a dice for that. So let's say I roll a 6, good for me, Axis roll a 1, so allies gonna play first. And how this works is at the beginning, first player will choose an action, then the second player choose some other actions, and so on and so on. And that's for the first card. When you come to when you flip the card to go to next year, again you're gonna roll who's gonna be the first player, and you're gonna do the same thing again. So you're always deciding who's gonna be first player as you flip these cards and go through them. Alright. Let me explain what you need to do to win the game. So if by the end of the last action in 1945, which would be this little column here, and by the way these columns, I'll explain that as we get to that. By the end of the last card and the last action, if you have more advantage on these map cards than your opponent, you win the game. So for instance, let's say allies have advantages here, here and here, while the Axis have only here and here. So it's 3-1. Ally would win the game. Also, this could be neutral by the end of the game. So something like this will again score a victory for allies, because they have advantage in Britain and France, Central Europe, while the Axis only have advantage in Pacific. So that's what you're looking for. Who has the more advantage? Now, the game could actually end prior the last year and turn. If you either lose all your national strength, so your national strength goes to 0, which means this cube is off the card, and if this happens during the upkeep phase, and I'm gonna talk about the upkeep phase, you lose the game. So if you lose the national strength till the end of the upkeep phase, that's it, game over for you. The another thing, you can lose a game if you lose your industry and oil reserves, so they go to 0, both of them, till the end of the upkeep phase. So if you don't have any industry or oil reserves, for you war is over, which means you can still, you can function with either your industry or oil going to 0, but if both of them go to 0, game over. And now let's talk about how the game is played. So after we decide who is the first player, at the beginning of each turn, and there are 4 phases in the game which you need to go through: action phase, dominant phase, conflict phase, and the upkeep phase. So let's see how the action phase works. Action phase is quite simple. If I'm the first player, I will take my little cube and I will decide one of these placeholders, these ones with the numbers, where I want to place it. Let's say I want to place it here. Bam. Immediately I can do either 2 actions from the top or from the bottom of this column. So I can do these 2 actions or these 2 actions. When I finish my actions, the enemy player, my opponent, depending what I chose, can do only 1 action from a opposite part of the column. So if I took 2 actions from here, he can only do 1 action from here. Now, there is something he can do though. These oil reserves are the only thing that you can always use either during the action or the combat phase. So if he spends an oil reserve, go down to 2, so you have to spend 1 point, he can actually do both actions. So that's something you can do during the action phase. So let's do the actions. I choose this, and this I'm gonna choose these 2 actions on the bottom. So as you can see, lots of iconography, but I'm gonna explain each icon from now on. Let me use a little magnifying glass. So let's go here from left to right. So these two bombs that you can see, it's called bomb raid. You're basically bombing your opponent. The oil reserves gives you +1 to oil. These industry little icons give you some options you can do. You have multiple options with the industry. You can increase your industry by 1. You can spend 1 industry to increase up to 2 of your unit strength. So you can use the industry to, you know, get your units with more strength, more powerful. Or let me just check what was the last one, because I have this all written on little papers. Or I can lower my industry by 2 to rise my national strength by 1. So you can use your industry like over 4 just to you get your national strength by 1. So lots of things can be done with the industry icon. This icon with the little flag is called the recruitment. When you do a recruitment, you can increase strength of up to 2 units of your nation. So for instance, I can get navy, must be 2 different. You can't do +2 to 1. So I can get my navy to 5 and maybe my army to 4 with the recruitment icon. This icon here means technological upgrade, in which case I can either upgrade one of my unit by 1, or I can roll a die and have a random upgrade. If you check here on this card, okay, give me a second, you will see that besides every of these Army, Air Force, Navy, Industry, Oil Reserves, and even the national strength, you have a little number going from 1 to 6. So when you have to do something randomly, you roll a die, and that's +1 to one of my things on the national card. Let's see what else we have. We have this counter-espionage and sabotage icon, in which case I can roll a d6 and lower one of the random you know, things on his card, on the axis card, if I want, of my opponent. And lastly, I think the only icon that I didn't explain is this like little fist. This rises your national strength by 1. Okay. There is one more icon that we don't have right now on this card. It's probably below. Let me check. Here it is, with a little like a fire. This is resistance. So you can lower your national strength to sway advantage on one of these map back to neutral. So if Axis has an advantage here, you can lower your national strength and just put it back into neutral. Alright, so those are basically all the actions. Sorry if I had to explain them all, but right now I just want to show you how this works. Alright, so in my case I want to do the upgrade. So normally I can upgrade one of my units here, or I can roll a die and maybe get upgrade on anything. Industry, oil reserves, I need 4, 5 or 6, even my national strength. So let's say I'm gonna go random. I'm gonna roll a die. Bam, that's 4, that's my industry. So my industry is gonna go to 4. Bam. And my second action here is industry action. So with the industry, as you said, I can do 3 things. I can upgrade it even more to 5. Or I can lower it by 1 and then upgrade one unit. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. So when I can spend an industry to upgrade only one unit strength. That's why this recruitment here is much better than your regular industry. Recruitment gives you option to actually upgrade 2 units. So let's say I wanna spend this industry and I'm gonna upgrade my Air Force. Gonna go to 4, and that's my 2 actions. Once I do my 2 actions, my opponent will be able to do only 1 action from the other side. Let's say he doesn't want to spend oil reserves and do both actions right now. He wanna keep the oil reserves as they are for now. So let's say he's gonna do this bombing. Okay, bomb raid action. These 2 bombs. So he's gonna bomb me, and he has some options now. When you're bombing, someone, you can either lower his industry by 1 or his national strength by 1. You can decide which one of two. Or you can take a dice, roll, and it's going to be random. So in this case, he's going to actually lower my national strength. He's going to bomb me, and from 6 to 5. Once we all do our actions, I'm going to pick up my little cube right now, and we go to the dominance phase. During the dominant phase, the cube that you use to take an action, now you have to place it somewhere on the map, on these little placeholders that you can see here. Every map has 2 special abilities. Let's see what we have here. It says every time you increase your industry, gain additional +1 increase. Pretty good. So these are ongoing effects, or they will be activated when you do something that will be active as long we are in these 2 years, from 1938 to 1939. Don't forget, we just done 1 out of these 6 actions. And by the way, once you've done an action, you actually have to use a pen or something just to mark it that you have done that action. So let me do this correctly. So these 2 cards should be laminated to be easier for you to do this. So using dry eraser, you just do something like this. Bam. So we know I have done this action here. Actually, let me make it like this, a bit smaller, and make a little circle. Okay. So this action is used because once these actions in the columns are used, you can't use them again. Next turn, the next player will have to choose different column and choose different actions for that year. Alright, anyway, let's see what I want to do. If you win a conflict on this map, increase your national strength. Let's say I'm going to do this. This will be my dominant phase. I'm going to place my cube. So after you choose an action, you can also place your cube on one of these special ability options. So ongoing, it says, if you win a conflict on this map, increase your national strength. So I'm preparing already to win some conflicts on this map because I want to get my national strength back to 6, and you will see why. So lastly, after the dominance phase, we go to the conflict phase, and now we look this little number in the center. You can see number 1. This means whoever plays the cube, little cube, whoever chooses the action, now has to do 1 battle. Okay, so if I place the cube here, I would have to do 2 battles. You always have to do this number of battles. You can't do like only half of them or only 1. So I have to do 1 battle. So I have to be the attacker right now as allies. Alright, so when you're doing battles, there are 2 ways you can do this. So for instance, let's say I actually was here. I needed to do 3 battles, just for the sake of explaining. So if I have to instigate 3 battles, they either have to be 3 battles of the different units on the same map. Okay, so should be like Navy battle, Air Force battle, and the Army battle, or 3 battles on different units on different maps. So you can never have like a battle with the same unit twice. Okay, so either 3 units on the same map or different units on the different map, which means I can, if I have to do 3 battles, I can maybe do Air Force battle here, Army battle here, and then I have to choose a Navy battle either here or here. I can choose, or I can do all 3 on the same card. Alright, right now we have 1 battle, and I'm gonna have a battle here, and this icon actually tells you which units can actually be in the battle. So you can see on the Britain and France could be Navy, Air Force, and the Army. So I'm gonna choose to attack with my Navy. Alright. Alright, so let's do a battle. That basically during conflict phase which we have these battles. How this works is quite simple. Because I'm instigator of the battle, I have to roll first. I'm gonna roll a d6, and then I'm gonna add my current Navy, because I'm fighting with the Navy, strength to that roll. Let's see. I get a 6, nice roll. And with a 4, that's a 10. And then the Axis player will do the same. They have to do this because they're basically defending, and they're also using a Navy because it is a Navy battle. So let's see. And they roll a 2. Now there is an option during a conflict that you can do. You can spend one of your oil reserves to reroll a die, and if you do that, then other player can also do similar thing, because it goes between, like, do you want to reroll? Yes, I'm gonna reroll, I'm gonna do that. But you only have one reroll. So if the Axis player now do a reroll, I can also choose to do a reroll, but that will be the final basically roll. You don't have any more rerolls. So in this case, let's check it out. I got a 6, so Axis player thinking even if I roll a 6, I still gonna lose because, you know, I had a really good roll and I'm not gonna reroll that. So it's gonna be 10 against 5. He's not gonna use his oil reserves to reroll, which means I won this battle. When I won the battle, I get the advantage, so advantage goes to allies. And that's it. We only had one battle, so that's it. If you have multiple battles, you will resolve every one of them one by one. Alright, now we go to the upkeep phase, and this is important phase. During the upkeep phase, you check, does your national strength allow you to keep the advantage on these cards? And how this works is, you need to have 2 national strength for each map on which you have the advantage. So I have advantage here, so my national strength should be at least 2. Right now it's 5, so I'm still fine. But let's say I had advantage here and here and here. You can see 4 cards. I need 2 national strength for each of them, so that's 8 national strength that I have to have. If I'm on 5, this means I can only basically upkeep up to 2 of these advantages on the map. So the rest I will have to put on the neutral, because I would lose the advantage. So that's why the upkeep phases are also important. And during the upkeep phase, if my national strength is 0, I lose the game also. Alright, but let's check what my dominance gives me. It says, ongoing, if you win a conflict on this map, increase your national strength by 1, and I just won a conflict. So I immediately use that power and I go back to 6. So pretty good turn for the allies. We have one battle, we use some actions and we continue playing. But this time Axis player is the first one to choose actions. So let's say Axis player is gonna go here. Bam. Now keep in mind, you always have to look what kind of action you're giving to the other player. So maybe this will be, maybe he wanna go, oh, by the way, I forgot to do something, sorry, I kinda rushed. During the conflict phase, when you finish the battle, any unit that was in the battle will lose 1 step. So this goes to 3, so my navy goes down, and his navy also goes down to 2. So there is always casualties in battle, you will always lose 1 step, so -1 to your unit strength that were in the battle. Alright. Okay, let's now go with the... So Axis player now thinking, oh my oil reserves are pretty low, my navy is not really good, where do I want to fight, what do I want to do? So let's say they're gonna maybe push their industry a bit. So they go here, and they're gonna do these 2 actions, which basically give you an option to use his industry twice. So as I said, with the industry, you either can spend 1 industry to increase one of your unit strengths, you can just increase your industry, or you can spend 2 industry to increase your national strength. In this case, I'm actually gonna spend 1 industry to get my navy back to 3, and then I'm gonna spend my industry again and get my air force to 4. Actually, let's say get my army to 5. Okay, let's build my army as much as possible. So that's what 2 of my actions. Now we go to the ally player. I'm gonna spend oil reserve, bam, and I will be able to do both of these actions on the bottom. Normally I will be able to do only 1, but since I can spend these oil reserves, now I can do 2. So if you look here on the bottom, I can do some bombing raid, which I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna actually bomb his industry. As you know, I can choose either industry or national strength, or I can roll and do randomly. I don't want to do randomly here. I'm seeing his industry is quite low, and maybe I want to get it all the way to 0. So let's bomb his industry, and it goes to 1. Then I have this recruitment, and if you remember, recruitment is allowing me to increase 2 strengths of +1 basically of 2 different units. So I'm gonna get my navy back to 4, and I've got my army also back to 4. So now all my unit strengths are quite good. Alright, so you can already see how this tug of war going on, and you need to think what your enemy gonna do, what kind of actions you're gonna give your opponent. Now we go to dominance, and now the Axis player is looking, I have a really good army, let's see where I can use this army. And he needs to bring his industry back. Let's see what would be. Oh, this will be a really good dominance option for him. Every time you win an army conflict, increase your industry by 1. So he's gonna go there and he's gonna go do some battles. So this was the actions we used. Let's just mark them. So now we're gonna have 2 battles during the conflict phase. So first, Axis is gonna do 1 battle here using his army because he wanna do industry. So that's a 5 plus 2, that's a 7, and ally had a 4 plus food, that's 8. But now the Axis is gonna spend 1 oil and is gonna reroll his. So he goes to 11. Well, I can't beat that because he have more strength, so I'm not gonna use my oil reserves. I'm gonna lose this first battle. And don't forget, we have 2. So Axis is gonna take the advantage in the Central Europe, and every time you win an army conflict, increase your industry by +1. So the industry goes to 2. And now the Axis player needs to do another battle, but it must not be the army. So I already have the advantage here. It would be really stupid to use oh, by the way, we need to lower our army, so this goes to 4 and this goes to 3, because don't forget, there are always casualties in the war. So it would be really stupid because I already got advantage here, but maybe I can bring advantage here back in Britain or France. So let's see, I have well, my navy is still not that good. But I have to do a second battle, as I said. Once you choose your battles, you have to use them. Well, let's do the Pacific maybe. I'm gonna do the navy battle. So that's 3 plus 5, that's 8. And then allies do a roll. They got 4. I mean, they got 5. They're gonna use oil to reroll. Oh, they got a 9. Can I actually beat that? If I get a 6, I can even out, but I'm not gonna do that. But let's say, what happens if your strength are even? Well, nothing. You still have casualties, but no one gets any advantage. It stays on neutral. So I'm not gonna use my oil because my oil and industry are pretty low right now. I'm actually gonna lose this battle. So advantage goes to allies. And we have some casualties, so this goes down to 3 and my navy goes down to 2. Oof, I have lots of casualties here. And that was 2 turns. Upkeep phase. Let's check the allies. Allies have the advantage on 2 maps, so they need at least 4 national strength. They do have more than 4, so they keep those advantage. Axis player, same thing, but he has only advantage in the Central Europe. And that's how you're gonna play the game. You're gonna choose your actions, you're gonna have little battles, and you're gonna go from year to year. So once we finish all actions from this card, you just flip it and we continue. Here we do a roll who's gonna be the first player again, and game goes on until we go to the 1945 and we use all the actions from this card. Then we're gonna check who has the advantage. Now, important thing, once we flip the card, as you can see these dominance cubes, you keep the dominance only during the whole these years. So once we flip the card, you're gonna take this cube back. So you will not always have the same dominance on these on the cards. You might choose something else to use. So you have to clear your cubes once you flip the action card. Alright, I think this is a pretty good explanation how the game works. I'm gonna do a full playthrough, as I said, playing to my best as like 2 players, or I can even do automa, it doesn't really matter. Automa is quite good. I already prepare it in my rulebook, and then if you think this is something interesting you want to try it, it is not the big game, it is really micro game, and it actually, I think the design is quite tight, and there is a depth in this design. As you can see, I think there is a lot of game here on these little cards. So see you next time, and as I always, if you like the things I do, please click those subscribe button or even a like. I mean, I don't have much viewership, but I just, you know, do this for as a hobby, but I like when people actually, you know, acknowledge that they like the things I do. So see you next time, and goodbye.